Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Can We Talk by Master Relationship Coach Myra McKnight.
Wonderful. Thank you, Source Nation family. This is Myra McKnight with Can We Talk, and I am excited to introduce my guest to you. But before I do that, let me take time to thank our wonderful sponsors. For without them, we wouldn't be here to be able to give you this amazing information and this entertainment. Our sponsors are WGLRO.com, Scott's Cares Foundation, Urban Grandstand Digital, Meet My Type Matchmaking, Blends, Ren Ovations, and New Covenant of Praise. Those are our amazing sponsors, and we are truly grateful for them to have the faith and the trust in us to allow us to be with you today. Now, as I promised you, my wonderful and amazing guest is in the studio with me. Her name is Bridgett Banks. She's a purpose catalyst coach, empowerment speaker, and author of an amazing book, The Diary of a Godchild. And Bridgett, hello, Bridgett.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for asking. Thank you for the opportunity to share on your show today. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I gave a little bit of synopsis about you, Bridgett, but getting prepared for the show today, I saw a Facebook Live that you did, and you're talking about your book, and just the fire and the excitement that you have is electrifying, and it's contagious. But I want you to take a few minutes, Bridgett, and tell our Source Nation audience about you and about the book that you've written, The Diary of a Godchild.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm Bridgett Banks. I'm a purpose catalyst coach. I empower those from all walks of life from a biblical standpoint on how to achieve and keep private and public victory. I do this by identifying societal and cultural thinking that are purpose blockers, ultimately to provoke us to a call to action, catapult us into continual transformation, and extract our greatest potential so that you and I may fulfill our destiny in Jesus Christ. I'm also a mother of 3. I'm a wife of 13 years to my awesome husband, Shanton Banks, and just regular, I do volunteer as far as going out to the San Diego Youth Services, sharing with youth there my coaching services, being able to shape and mold and help them with their thinking, mindset, just abilities to move forward in life in spite of the situation they are in and what they're facing in their lives. And I also go out to outreach in my own local area where there are children that are out there and they're not, homeless or anything like that. They just, your regular children, they're playing, they're, enjoying life, yet, just imparting to them bits by bits about their purpose, who they are, who God, made them to be, and just inspiring them to move in that direction. And so that is where my book is derived from. It's derived from my childhood and also just some of the challenges I faced, and then being an outreach person, I go out and I minister to those that are hurting, or, maybe they're just walking around aimlessly and don't necessarily know their purpose. And so I like, impacting people on a soul level. Let's get down to the root of it. And so I use as a memoir my story from childhood to young adulthood of my sharing my journey and how I found my purpose, and really not me finding it so much. It was more God revealing it to me, but yet it was still a choice for me to surrender to that purpose. And I often say, you have a short period of time here, and it's very short, and it's full of trouble. You'll have things. All of this is in the Word of God. But don't be distracted. Don't get in a place where you're so consumed with life or just going through your mundane routine that you forget that you were created for a purpose. And I always, pretty much liken that to a manufacturer. They take, they have a product, they design it for a particular purpose, and that product is, put on display for that purpose. However, if you use it for anything different, then it's not being used for its intended purpose. So I like to think of that's how God made us. He made us with gifts. He made us with talents. He has us on a journey to, our destination and where we're supposed to be in Him. But we often can, use our talents and our gifts in a different way than what He's intended, or we can walk on a different path than what He's intended. But if you do that, you have missed the entire purpose of your existence. God has a place for us. He has a, plan for us. And it's not, we have to surrender ourselves to Him to allow Him to use us in that magnitude in our lives.
Right. Now tell me this, and I want to make sure that, we get out to the Source Nation family, about you, how you got there, is what brought you to this point. And I do understand, I know you were called and God pulled you into your purpose, and I hear a lot of people talk about purpose and how you get to your purpose and what's happened in your life. And I don't know if it's actually did something happen, and you said something a little different. You said that God pulled you into your purpose. We have a lot of people looking for their purpose. So I kind of think more so on the line of where you are, Bridgett, is that as long as you keep going and keep doing, that purpose is going to find you, and you're going to ultimately meet. That's what I think. But what brought you to the Purpose Catalyst Coach? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so what brought me to Purpose Catalyst Coach is we know that we all were, created. And so for my journey, as far as me, I went through as a child just going through molestation, being promiscuous, having an abortion, father addicted to drugs, not living with my biological mom since the age of 7, just all these adverse situations. And when I went through all of those situations, I did not understand. And so I questioned my existence. I questioned who I was, and even when, I was brought to a place in my life where I was married and I had a kid and I felt like I could just create my own life, I still was not fulfilled. So that made me come to a place to ask God. I just cried out to God, and I asked God, what is it? Like, what is all of this? What is this about? And that's when He showed me and revealed to me that I was born up on a generational curse. And very simple, it's just not walking in obedience to the power of God in your life. And so at that point, I understood that for me to reverse that curse was for me to repent and for me to walk in a direction in what He had already intended for me. And when I say is being revealed to you, in that place is my purpose didn't start at that point. It did not start there. So being a Purpose Catalyst Coach, I want people to understand that it does not start just when you come to a place and God reveal it to you, but in fact, He already knew who you was before you were born. All those things I mentioned that I went through on my journey and continue to face in my journey, all of that was working together for my purpose. So as a Purpose Catalyst Coach, I kind of stepped in there to kind of just shift the paradigm a little bit. If we could shift the mindset of how you view life challenges.
Right, Bridgett. Let me ask you this because I don't want to lose you here. And when that happened to you, and I know I get a lot of people that talk about those things that happen, but what I like to get is the meat of that. I like to get what is the meat of what you had to do to be released from what you were feeling in your life. And I get you. I do understand that because as a young girl, I went through a lot of challenges and things of that nature in my life too. And I understood that, and I felt alienated, and I felt out of touch. And I'm always, wishing and hoping and asking and praying. But what did you do? What did you have to do to hear God tell you that you were different and you had a purpose, and your purpose was to be as powerful as you are? But what did you do?
The first thing I did, and I said yes. This was because, and that's why I say finding purpose is a choice, because I believe God is always knocking at the door, but it's up to us to open that door. So I had to allow him into places, those secret places, those places that we don't necessarily articulate. They may come out in different ways, but we don't necessarily talk about those places. And so when God would nudge me.
Right. And how did you do that? Because I have a lot of ladies that I work with, and I do know that, when you're coming through those things, what you have to do is, like you said, there's things that you have to do. So what did you do? Did you relinquish yourself of everything and you began to a prayer regimen, or you began to fast, or you began to pray more? What are the specifics? Because I want the ladies out here to get as much power as you have, who are thinking that they can't go any further. So what
Amen. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I totally hear you. And just the practical of what I did, I will open my Bible during that time, because at this time I was about 17, 18 years old. And I would begin to open my Bible, and God would begin to, I would just look at a scripture, and it would be the exact same situation that I was in. And so that's what really connected me to the Word of God. Like, it was so relevant to my life right then, in that moment. I started doing that. I started fasting. Yes, I did start fasting. I would fast 2 to 3 times a week, letting go of things like how I would normally think. I would, put myself in places. I let go of all those things. When I say I was promiscuous, I was, just different bad habits or things that I was doing, I completely said, you know what, I gotta let this go. I gotta let this go. And that's why I say it's a choice, because oftentimes we're seeking for God to do something that we're not willing to let go. You're still not willing to let go of the knife that's stabbing you in your back. You're still not willing to let go of the thing that's causing the pain, the infection that's in you. And you got to be willing to let that go. So the question always comes, how do I let that go? And that's where I say it has to be a change of mind. Like, you have to look at your life differently, because when I came to a place of understanding who God was to me, understanding that He was with me my entire time, even when I felt like giving up, He was there, then I felt comfortable with going to Him as my Father. I felt comfortable with opening up and being transparent in prayer, because oftentimes, you go into prayer and people feel like you got to pray these fancy words or you got to say certain things, but I just started telling God what was on my mind, because I understood that He made me, so I didn't have to fix up anything for Him. I just needed to talk to Him. And in that place, that's when He started speaking back to me.
Okay. Now, and let me ask you. Well, I got a question from the audience. Okay, can you answer a question for us, Bridgett?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. And the question is, you stated that God knows. You stated that the second question. I'm sorry. I'm struggling with finding my purpose. I have many things that I care about, especially mentoring young women and men in the arts, but it's not sustaining me financially. How do you find balance when you're struggling?
And so when you're finding balance, okay, now you have the financial side of it, and you have the fact of I know this is my purpose and this is my passion. When you're talking about the two of those, when you seek purpose, God provides for you in that arena. So when you know this is what I'm called to do, then seek God for a strategy. When I say that, because oftentimes we'll seek people and we'll find it out. Even when people come to me and they say, you know what, this is what I know I'm supposed to be doing, how can we put this into a plan? My first thing is what are your gifts? What are your talents exactly before we start trying to formulate this into a plan? Because once we figure that out, then we can find out where the sources of income can come from to monetize the vision or the desire or the dream that He's placed into you.
Okay, all righty. That's good. Thank you for that. Thank you out there in Source Nation family for giving us that question. Okay, I have another one for you, Bridgett, that just came in as well. You stated that God knows who you are prior to birth. Purpose, to me, is something that God has called you to do. But if you're finding purpose later in life, is that still God ordained?
Yes. Most certainly. It does not matter if you are 5, 25, or 65. It does not matter at what point. It's never too late. Once God revealed it to you, and I would give you this story, and it's very brief, of meeting this older guy, and I think he's about in his 70s. But he was just speaking life over me, but he was saying, I just got to this place of, knowing what I'm supposed to be doing. He said, I wish I would have answered long time ago. See, that's why I say it's always knocking. And so he said, I wish I would have answered a long time ago. But because of where he was and the age he was, he said, I don't care where I'm at. If I know God is telling me to say something, I say it. If I know God is telling me to do something, I do it. And that's all it is. It's nothing complicated. It's just, okay, what is God asking of me right now?
Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely correct about that, Bridgett. And my thought would be, tell the listening audience in Source Nation this, is because sometimes we think that meeting someone like you who is powerful in her word and powerful in her right and powerful in her purpose. And what I like for everyone to know that everybody's not that. Just because you're not powerful in speaking or minister or things of that nature, you still have a purpose. And your purpose, sometimes people think that it has to be grandiose or it has to be a lot going on or things of that nature. But see, God could just have you do the simplest thing, and that is your purpose. Would you agree?
Yes, that's certainly it.
Right.
That's it right there. We all have different gifts. We all have different talents. We all have a different purpose. But all of that works together. That's where the unity come in at.
Absolutely.
We all work together to fulfill one purpose, and that is the purpose God created mankind all together, and that's to glorify Him.
Absolutely. I have a lady that she has found her purpose, and her purpose is rocking babies, the new babies or the premature babies in the hospital.
Yes.
And she gets such a joy out of that, of rocking them and speaking over them or reading a story to them. These are babies that are a couple of days old, 3, 4 pounds and things of that nature. And her purpose is to tell stories to them until they start to grow, get bigger and healthier and older and things of that nature. And she says she watches that. And it's such an amazing thing because the babies can be held in your hand, and then you can go back and you can, hold them in your arms. And that's an amazing purpose. And going along with what you said, and people that's doing so many different things, there are a multitude. And matter of fact, let me ask you this, Bridgett, what do you think about people having multiple purposes?
When you say multiple purposes, are you meaning in the vernacular, they operate in different, streams and they doing different things at one time? Is that what you mean by that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and so when we're talking about it, usually I refer to that as I don't necessarily call it different purposes. I just believe we all have one purpose, but we have different gifts and talents to be able to display or utilize that for God, purpose for us. And so I definitely believe that if you have 1 or 10 talents, you should be using all of your talents. You should, be utilizing them. Now, does that mean all of them need to be operating at the same, level? Like if you sing and you dance and you write or all these things, there is balance, and I believe God will give that to you and how you can utilize this gift in your life. Going back to when you were talking about the lady that working and being able to, read stories to the babies, those are the most critical stages of development and nurturing. There's actually a study on that where if a child is nurtured at, when they're a baby, and a child that's not nurtured when they were a baby, it affects them later on, and as far as how they function and perceive life and function in life and their relationships in life. And so that is a very important purpose, you know. So I definitely believe now her purpose in, you know, reading a book, but that same person, you know, maybe a singer, so maybe she will want to, you know, sing. Maybe she does it in church. Maybe she doesn't go to the nursing homes. Whatever it may be, you can utilize those gifts, but I do not believe in burying any of your gifts. I believe if you got 10, you should use the 10.
Absolutely. Okay. And I got a question that just came up, Bridgett, another question. And this is a real talk question. This is for real here. There is a lady, and she says, how do you match, and how do you still look for your purpose, or can you look for your purpose and date at the same time?
And date at the same time. That's a good question.
Damn. What kind of question is that, right?
So find purpose in the dating. You know, date on purpose.
Do what God called her to do, but it's kind of like, okay.
Right.
What's going on with me? I really need to kind of get a hold of it. So that's the question that she has, which is legitimate, you know, actually, because, you know,
it is.
We're human beings, and you know, so you got a husband, I got one, and a lot of sisters want one.
I would say date on purpose. Date on purpose.
Absolutely, and she's like, okay, so let's kind of keep it real and kind of help her out. Okay, what do you say about that?
I definitely say, one, date on purpose. Don't just, you know, haphazardly, you know, just date. If you're dating, if it's somebody who's seeking you out and they wanting to date you, you're checking out, is this the one? You know, not just dating just so, you know, I just want a companion, but, you know, date on purpose, you know, because if you have no intentions of marrying anybody, then, you know, what's the purpose, you know? But I would say date on purpose. Not only that, you know, just make sure you're seeking. You're not, you know, seeking to do other things that is going to hinder your purpose. You're not going to do other things that's going to hinder. It's going to cause you to be distracted. It's going to cause you to slip and fall. Make sure that when you do it, you set it up in your guidelines, your measures, and how far you can go and what you can do, but don't allow it to hinder your purpose.
Okay, absolutely. And I was trying to get to that too, because there has to be a balance. And in my opinion, you're going to always be seeking your purpose. Even when you do what you do, there's always more to do. And to that, you know, you are human. You do want to experience life that God has given you, and even that's a part of the purpose and the scheme of things. I think you touched on it. That you do have to be balanced. And in order to be able to do that. Now, I say, this is my opinion, that if you are not emotionally stable and if you're not in a balanced mindset, that I wouldn't step over into that territory, because it is very easy to lose your sight. And then your purpose is gone. You're not looking for it. It's not coming to you. And then when everything else falls through, then you're saying, God, you know, where are you and what happened? So I think that was a great question, and that works. I have another lady that asked a question here, and we got a couple of them. Is that did you know your purpose prior to marriage?
No. I didn't.
Okay.
I had no idea who I was. I got married. I was 19. He was 21. So definitely, I did not know my purpose. Everything, and that was a challenge as well, because we had to quote unquote grow up together. We had to grow up together. We had to find out who we were, and at the same time, you know, learn each other. And at the same time, you know, we had kids along the way. So all of that, you know, was a challenge. And, you know, and I'm sure, you know, it caused great growth, but it was great challenge as well, because I had no idea who I was. In fact, I was very needy. I was very emotionally broken. I was in a place that, you know, really in thought of it, I'm like, why did we get married so early? But we knew at that time we did seek God out. We was going to church and stuff like that. And so we knew that's what God wanted. However, just the timing of everything being so young, and we had to find out who we were, and it was very challenging.
Absolutely. And was your husband, Bridgett, was your husband supportive when you realized where you were going in your walk and seeking your purpose to get to the place where you are now? Was your husband supportive in that?
Initially, he was kind of like, okay, I know this is what you're called to do. However, some of the stuff, because I'm definitely a face walker when it comes to, it seems real random. It'd be like, what? Like, what are you doing now?
Right.
But, initially it was like a strange place. It was a strange place for us. For me and for him.
Right.
And going into that, but I can say he's always told me, if it's God, do it. But in that, now whether he understood it, just to say, I didn't even understand a lot of, some of the stuff that he would have for me to do. That was a different thing. So sometimes, women will ask me, they were like, how do you do if your, husband don't necessarily understand, what God is calling you to do? Well, one, you can't override that. You need to, talk to him and see how he feels about it and all those things, and trust God in it. Don't try to badger it over him. Trust God in it as he leads you along the way, that he'll start, beginning revealing to him as well, because, it has to be done in order. You can't just be like, oh, this is my purpose, I'm going to do what I want to do. Your purpose should coincide, with your husband and your family.
And I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad we're on this conversation here, because a lot of women that are seeking their purpose that are married sometimes don't understand that you do have to balance them. As I said before, you have to balance that part of being there, and you have to communicate with your husband as well. And as you said, you guys were young, and so you had to kind of go through some growing pains. Just going through that particular thing, because sometimes the husband feels alienated, or he feels like something else goes before him and things of that nature. And in some cases, you feel like that this is what you're supposed to do and nothing else. So being balanced is a big deal in the relationship, and it's a blessing that you guys, I see the picture of your beautiful family, that you guys made it through and you walked it through, and it's brought you to this place where you are. So you had to do some soul searching, some praying, some believing, some trusting, some communicating, and knowing that you were every day, your walk was towards that. Would you say?
Right. And when you talk about the balance, I've been so one-sided on both sides. Like, everything is about my family, and then everything is about my purpose. I really had to learn that my purpose was in everything that I did. I was my purpose. So whether I was a wife, whether I was a mother, whether I was, in the marketplace, whatever it was, I was still who I was. And sometimes we compartmentalize it, and that's where we get in trouble with the balance, because we don't understand, okay, I serve these people, but you got to serve your family. In fact, you should be serving your family first. And so oftentimes, I got that confused along the way. It took me some time to learn, okay, purpose is who I am. I don't compartmentalize it to whatever it is a vision or something that God has given me. It actually becomes who I am, and wherever I go and whatever I do, there is purpose in it. It's purpose in being a wife. There's a purpose of you being part of a family unit, and I even teaching my kids about generational blessings and inheritance. All of that is part of God's purpose. And so, I seek for the full picture, being when people talk about the Proverbs 31 woman type of thing, and they kind of look at it like, okay, that was just for then, or, how does that look now, all that type of thing. But when you understand your purpose is who you are, you can flow in that. You can flow in that, and you can begin to allow God to use you to monetize things, to begin to use you to being able to serve your family, use you to serve other people, and it's all part of his big, he set the solitary and family, so it's part of his whole picture anyways. It's up to us to really, come to that place.
And I have a question here that came through, and you kind of that Proverbs 31 is a magnificent verses in the Bible. Do you think that women hold themselves too rigid when it comes to living up to the expectations of Proverbs 31? Because in Proverbs 31, that is a multifaceted of wording for women to be and to do. Or do you think that within that particular realm of Proverbs 31 that you are a part of some of that, but not all of that?
I think it's a process. I truly think is a process, because when you look at it, you have to think about, okay, how does this look like, and, what does it look like in the 21st century? What does this woman look like in the 21st century? Whether she's a businesswoman, whether she, works in her home, whether she's has a career, what does she look like? Because she didn't fear the future. She prepared. And I think women should, prepare their homes. They should be able to serve their husbands. There's an advantage to getting up early. But when you're talking about all these different facets that you see in a proverb, I think you shouldn't put pressure on yourself, but I think you should be willing not to just be like, you know what, that was just for then. That's for that. I'll never measure up to that. But to grow, you might not, necessarily feel like you can do all of that right now, but just take portions of it and say, you know what, I'm going to start applying this to my life. I'm going to start applying that to my life, because I knew, God had gave me a vision of being an example in how to function in ministry, in the marketplace, serving my family, all this stuff together and it being balanced. And I really just thought that was crazy. I was just like, I was so stressed at the time, so overwhelmed, so out of balance that was not possible. And so I think just putting that pressure on you like that, but then I start understanding, grow. You can grow into this. You ain't got to do it all at once, but start growing, start changing your heart and your mind about it.
Right. And I think that and allude to what you were saying, Bridgett, is, that's a lot, and I think a lot of women, because there are some women who are not married and they don't have a family, and being a minister in the church, I saw a lot of women with that expectation of being the Proverb 31, and I think we all are that. Even if you do not do everything that particular, because those are descriptions of that woman. And you might not be a part of all of that, because if you don't have a husband, that don't coincide. Right. If you don't have the children, that doesn't coincide. If it's just you by yourself, then you have to, you address that addresses you in your prayer. Right. And I wanted that to be brought out, because I think a lot of women put that heavy pressure upon themselves to be so much more, and now you be the best you can be, because nobody else can do that. But at the same time, you can't push yourself, because your husband will suffer, your children will suffer, you will suffer. And in the long run, it is not what God has intended us to do. So that was a good question. I'm glad that she brought that up, because I know we talk about that a lot. Now, since I got you here, and I'm going to just keep it rolling here, and I'm going to keep it real, because you are a wife. Wife, and you've been through some things, and you've gotten out of those things. But even in your voice, Bridgett, I can tell that you're a very strong woman. I can tell that you're balanced, and I can tell, I don't know, prior to your purpose, what kind of woman were you prior to your purpose, prior to where you are? See, I'm going to get down to what's real here. So tell me the transition from then to there. I don't have to go elaborate a whole lot, but the transition, were you always that powerful, strong woman then?
You know what? I think that's a twofold question. I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because before I, learned who I was, learned my identity and the purpose God, created me and what he had for me to do, is the personality traits the strong, the dominant type personality. I had that even before, and God had to really show me. And I really didn't like them. I did not like them because oftentimes when people come off strong like that, people often feel like, you know, they're not the ones who need encouragement. They're, you know, they're never, you know, weak or whatever. And so even though I came off in that way, on the inside, I felt discouraged, you know, in those times. And I was just like, God, what is this? And that's when he woke me up one morning. He showed me that my personality traits, he could allow me to transform into what he needed them for them to be. He needed me to be bold with his word. He needed for me to be able to stand ground in what he has, you know, said and ordained, you know, for us and all those different things. So he started giving me a different perspective on my personality. So I don't say that I'm necessarily any different. It's just it's for a different purpose now. Whereas before it was about me, myself, and I. It was about trying to figure out who I was. It was hating who I was. Whereas now, you know, I know who I am, and I know what is the purpose for me to have those personality traits, to not abuse them. Because when I had the personality traits are the same now, but they're just being, you know, changed over, transformed for the glory of God, whereas before they were abused.
Absolutely, they use it a different way, and I wanted that to be out to our to the ladies as well, because there is there is a part of a lot of women that are strong-willed. And even though they're strong-willed, just like you said, Bridgett, there's still some pain, there's still some uncomfortableness, there's still some concerns. But we come out like a bull, a raging bull, that we tough and we got it all going on, and that's just a reflection of us covering up. But and what I hear you say, and I can say that because I was one of those. You know, I can talk and be abrupt, and I just didn't have much patience. A lot for people, but at the end of the day, I was needing a whole lot as well. And so I agree with you where God will take that strength, the strongest part of you, and use it for the good of you and the good of others. And for you to say that, because see, you didn't, I can tell that your power just didn't pop up. That is you. That is something that is just totally you. And it's amazing to have that and be able to use it to uplift others, encourage others, to lead others, to let them know that they, too, can reach their fullest potential, just being who they are. And sometimes, Bridgett, I don't know if you've run into this before, sometimes people just can't, they can't appreciate or even accept the fact that you are who you are, even in your power.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's you know, sometimes it's you're misunderstood. You're misunderstood a lot, you know, where people like, you know, it's some people that love it and they like, wow, you know, I need that energy, I need that fire. And some others, you know, they look at it like, you know, what is it that you're hiding? What is it? And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, it's my personality. You know, I try to be as transparent as possible. I try to really allow people to know that you're going to have vulnerabilities, you're going to have weaknesses, but that's when you have to lean in. You have to trust God in that. But at the same time, don't back down to who you are. Be who you are. Like, and there was so many times that I tried to change. That's why I didn't like it, because how people perceived it, you know, and I did not like it. I'm like, oh, my God, can I just tone this down? Can I just, and it was just, I wasn't me, and I was miserable until finally I came to the place, you know what, I'm going to be me, and I'm going to let you know what my vulnerabilities are. I'm going to let you know that I have weaknesses, but I refuse to back down off the word of God. I refuse to back down on who God created me to be. So it's definitely a balance in that, and I also recognize it's not about me. He gifted me to be able to speak. Actually, writing is where my greater anointing is, but I am gifted to speak as well, but he gifted me for that, to be his mouthpiece. And so for me to back down to say he didn't create me good enough, you know, I wasn't good enough. And so I just refused to, you know, and you're going to be misunderstood. I was misunderstood when I tried to shrink back, and I'm misunderstood when I stand up, you know. So at the end of the day, will you fulfill your purpose or will you not?
absolutely correct. And it comes to a point the older you get, because I've been at that point for a minute, that it doesn't even matter because you can't vacillate to appease other people. But at some point in your life, you got to get to the point where it doesn't matter, because I would say, God, this is what you gave me. This is who I am. So I'm not going to change for anybody, man, woman, or anybody else. And I think sometimes my who I am have gotten me into some trouble, maybe, so to speak. When somebody understood me and they thought a particular thing about me that was not true, but that was okay, and it used to bother me, as you said. But I got to a point in life where I am now that it doesn't matter. People say it's harsh when you say you don't care. But you got to get to a point where what really does matter, and the opinion of others don't matter to me at this point. Now, of course, I'm older than you are, so that might not be what you think, but at this point, that's mad. So I can really almost care less, Bridgett. But moving on that note, the Diary of a Godchild. Tell us, what are you hoping for your audience that reads this amazing book to get out of it? What are you hoping for them to get out of the Diary of a Godchild?
I'm hoping that they will look at problems differently, challenges that they've been through that seems like it was for their disadvantage, that is actually, for their advantage, changing their, paradigm on how they view challenges in life. I'm hoping they experience some healing, in areas in unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment, just being able to recognize life is very short, really focusing on your purpose and what God called you to do, and being able to let those things go, even though your hurt may seem validated and type of thing. But in the end of the day, you're leaving yourself in a prison. So just come out with your hands up and allowing God to really mend those broken pieces. I'm hoping that they will find purpose, for the younger audience that read it, for them to recognize that you don't have to wait till later, or some people feel like, they have time, where you don't feel like you have time. When I was first called, God told me, I said, I got time, and he said, who told you you had time? I'm advancing you beyond your years because it's the end of time. And so I, just stop putting it off, feeling like, later, procrastinating. Purpose is not something you want to procrastinate on. Just being able to really find out who you are, as soon as you read the book, start, asking those hard questions and those places that, you kind of keep shut off. Because oftentimes, when a place, how I grew up, I dealt with rejection a lot. But if you allow that to be a stronghold, even God, you won't even let God in. And so I really want people to know God is not what you have viewed for your life when you went through those challenges, and he's not those people who hurt you. God is totally different. Don't be afraid to go to him. Don't look at him. I would witness to a lot of people, and they be like, church don't burn down if I go in there, or God don't want me. And people say that jokingly, but they really do feel that way. And I want them to be knowing that.
Absolutely. I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's kind of how a lot of people feel. But, with your book, from what I've read, the parts of it is that, this is coming from the heart of who you are. And as you said before, you want to encourage those people to read it and to take action. Because it's one thing to read it, and it's another thing to take action for your life, so you don't remain the victim in your life. Tell us, it's been an amazing conversation with you, Bridgett, seriously amazing. Tell our audience how they can reach you and your website and your social media information for our listening audience.
Yes, so I'm on social media, Facebook. My regular Facebook page is Bridgett Custom Made Praiser Banks. Also, my regular Bridgett Banks page, fan page. Also on Instagram at Purpose Catalyst Coach. You can pull up my Facebook page through the at Purpose Catalyst Coach. Also on Periscope as at Purpose Catalyst Coach as well, and also on Twitter. Twitter is the only one that's different, which is at Purpose Ignites. And then also on my website is www.bridgettbanks.com, and Bridgett is BRIDGETT with no E, bridgettbanks.com. And also if you would like to call is 619-880-1285. You can give me a call, and the number is also on my website if you missed that number as well. And that's about it.
Okay. Bridgett, it has been amazing. You are a very talented and gifted young woman, and we wish you all of Godspeed, and I am so grateful to have you as my guest today in the studio, and I look forward to having you back so you can continue this fire that you just kind of trailing all over the world.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for having me. I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, there we have it. Bridgett Banks, Purpose Catalyst Coach. And that was just an amazing conversation with Bridgett, and she has a lot to offer, a lot to give, as well as you do. Out here in the listening audience, we all have something to give. One thing I want to say is be who you are. Be real. Don't try to be something that you're not. It's an uncomfortable position to be in. Get to the point early in your life. Don't wait late. Get to the point early in your life where you are who you are, and God is on your side, and God is there. And if nobody else is, oh, well, that's okay. You're going to be okay. Because sometimes when you're listening to other people, you can misconstrue what you're supposed to be doing out here, what your purpose is, what the plan of God has for you. Because somebody might tell you maybe you shouldn't do that. Oh, that might not be the right thing. Oh, if I was you, I wouldn't do that. People sometimes, if people don't have the courage to do things for themselves, they find ways to try to disconnect you from your purpose in your life. So don't let that happen. Be a force to reckon with. You are who you are. And she did say something which was so true, is that you're only on this earth for a limited time. Don't waste it. I don't care how old you are or how young you are. Don't waste your time. Be the best that you can possibly be. I want to say to the ladies, when you are walking in your purpose and doing those things in which God has called you to do, I promise you, that man that you're looking for, he's going to be there. He's going to be doing what you love to do. That's where you find him. When you're doing your best and what you love to do, whatever that might be, that man is going to be there too, because those spirits will attract. So, don't spend a lot of money trying to find different places to go just to find him, because you want him to have some of the same traits that you do. No relationship is perfect, but you can make the best of it. I want to thank you for allowing me to come into your home today and have a great spirited conversation with my past guest, Bridgett Banks. And this is Myra McKnight, your Master Relationship Coach. You have a fantastic weekend. I will see you next week, and know that God loves you, and I so much appreciate you for allowing me to be a part of your day. Good night.